Okay, next. Um, I am thinking once again. Hopefully you saw the last video. This violet row is Dioxazine Purple by M. Graham. And it can be really nice, but oftentimes it sort of dries a little grayed out more than you really want. So over here I did a mix of Quinacridone Pink by Daniel Smith and Ultramarine Blue, also Daniel Smith, to get a reddish purple. And so just those two paints in different amounts will also get this color hue, and this one. So I'm going to kind of experiment here. So I'm going to go pick up a little bit of that Quin Pink and also a touch of my the Ultramarine Blue. I just kind of think about how much of each it would take to get to more of a what I would consider purple violet. And that is looking even a little bit more red than that, which I actually kind of like. I just added a little more blue. That might have been a little too much, but let me see here. Yeah, that takes it more to like, well, I don't know. That's damn nice too. um, I wanted to see, mostly what I'm doing is I wanted to see if I could liven these two rows up a bit with um, some watery mixes, some various mixes of just the Quin Pink and the Ultramarine Blue, and try to kind of let go of that Dioxazine Purple for right now. And I think I'm going to do that. I think this is going to be sort of my, what I'm going to do is this row and pretend that this was kind of my second pass with just a juicy version. This is a little more watery than technically than the very non-technical juicy concentration, but since there's already a layer here, I don't want this to get necessarily darker, but I do want it to just dry with a prettier color, just a little bit more vibrant. So this is sort of a good example of what I did for the second pass of everything here. So now I'm going to add a little bit more blue, and I'm going to do a similar thing to this row. Let's see. But still make it pretty darn watery. But try to definitely make it so it's getting closer to this, what I'm calling straight blue. I think one of the reasons why mixing these two colors comes up with sort of a nicer looking wash is that the pigments, they sort of break up a little bit, just enough to make things a little bit more complex and interesting even after it dries. So this is good to know. It's kind of bumming me out that the dioxazine purple doesn't stay as nice as I wish it did when it dries, because it's a handy color to grab quickly. I'll see how those guys dry, and hopefully I'll just sort of have a sense that they seem nicer than they were. But once again, the smart thing to do would be to do a side-by-side comparison. But sort of now I'm gonna kind of go back to where I was and just getting to the third swatch and making a mix that's really creamy and like as pure and intense as I can, and close to what I consider the colors of the color wheel. It's a whole nother conversation, but nice and intense into this third one, but just this third one, and then I'm going to save the fourth and fifth for getting darker with other pigments. So let me see, this excuse me, is a mix of both phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. Yeah, it's getting nice. And I'll let that color stay there. But this one is going to be some phthalo blue and some phthalo green blue shade. Make sure you're thinking when you say that out loud. This is my phthalo blue by Grumbacher, which is the same pigment as most other brands that are called phthalo blue green shade, but I find this one to be easily the nicest one I've tried. I think I've tried them all. Well, I'm sure I haven't tried them all, but I'm also mixing in some phthalo green blue shade by Daniel Smith. Got a little too green. That's pretty, getting nice and creamy and dark. A little too creamy, but brought in a little bit more water. That seems a nice hue, kind of what I'm after. And that is, it is nice. Yeah, that's pretty dark. And these phthalos will get very dark. And once again, I'm trying to match up sort of the color wheel and specific watercolor pigments and paints. And sometimes they sync up and sometimes they don't exactly, trying to follow a structured thing. What I think I want to try is actually putting a really watery layer of that same mix onto this second one, which is going to make that a touch darker, and I think that's going to make that make a little more sense. It lines up pretty good with the rest of the values of, well, at least these guys. I'll thirsty brush you up a little bit. Okay, now to the just green is some phthalo green blue shade, and just so I don't accidentally mix some red with my green, because as we know that red and green are complements of each other, so they look lovely naturally when they're next to each other, but when they're mixed they dull each other out, gray each other out. So this straight green is a mix of that phthalo green blue shade by Daniel Smith, and this is a little bit of phthalo yellow green, also by Daniel Smith. And I am 90% sure that that's what that paint is. It might be M-gram, the same pigments, but I'm going with it. And once again, just the third, trying to get really intense green. So what I'm trying to think of is straight green. It's not leaning to blue, it's not leaning to yellow. So here I'm going to just go with this paint that, once again, I'm 90% sure of is phthalo yellow green. There's a little bit of something going on. I just really want it to be the right paint because I don't want to waste that all. And I know that I've tried the M-gram and the Daniel Smith, and I like the Daniel Smith more.